Blue White breakdown time. Dave Jones, Bob Flounders. Dave, we got a big one this Saturday in College Park, 3:30 on Fox. Penn State at Maryland. I guess Maryland is the opposite of resurgent at the moment, having lost 3 in a row.
Is
So,
there a word? Is there a word desurgent? Because that's what they are.
is resurgent a word? We're gonna make fun of this team, and then they're gonna win, and then it's gonna
I
be
know.
bad news bears for us.
That's exactly what I've been thinking, because they have the ability to beat anyone in this league except Michigan. I think that's a bad matchup for them. But they had Ohio State on the ropes. They had the horseshoe really quiet. And then, as we've spoken about before, Taulia Tagovailoa, their quarterback, just started making knuckleheaded plays. He threw an interception that just was needless that started Ohio State back.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make a really good argument that if he just game manages, they have got a really good shot to beat Ohio State. It was, even with all this stuff, it was still 17-17 deep into the third quarter, and then they end up losing by 20. They do have the ability to beat almost anyone in this league, but they constantly desurgent should be a word. I don't think it is, but that's the word for them. I also hear something else about them as enigmatic. You know, they're difficult to understand. They're a puzzle wrapped in a riddle. Well, I don't think they're difficult to understand at all. I don't think they got a lot of football players. And it's funny, I got a note from Goon Conlon yesterday because of something I wrote in the Power Poll. He said, nothing has ever been truer that you've written than this, which I know is a pretty low standard, but it was about how they just don't. Loxley doesn't recruit football players. He recruits like a track team and then expects them to play football when the conditions get bad, when the opponents get good. And it was worse than even I thought. I mean, I didn't really check what they've been since mid-October. I mean, they're like well under 500. I don't know what the percentage is here during his 5+ seasons, and now they're doing it again. Started 5-0 and now 0-3 since.
Dave, for a minute, let's forget Penn State, Maryland. How is Goon doing? Keith Goon Conlon. I think a lot of Penn State fans know who he is. Member of the '94 offensive line, great guy. Always fun to be around, and he follows the team pretty closely. I was just curious if he said anything else to you.
No, it was just a short text exchange, and he felt that described what they do so well that he felt compelled to text me. That's all it was. But it's not like we haven't seen this before. We see it every damn year under Locks, and he kind of threw him under the bus after this latest thing at Northwest.
He does that more often than people realize, but yeah.
He does. Players got to make plays. Well, who coaches them? Who picks the players? Who picks the groceries? It's a really bad sign. I talked to one of the 24/7 guys yesterday from Maryland, Jeff Ehrman, and I don't want to credit anything to him here, but I mean, he's pretty expert on this. And by the way, he's kind of on to basketball season. It's a lot like Indiana and Maryland. So there's just total apathy there in a way because the fan base has seen it before. And that fan base doesn't really like football that much anyway. So it's like Penn State basketball. You're going to have to do something and sustain it to really catch their interest. And I could see like a half full stadium on Saturday afternoon, especially if the weather's bad. I haven't looked at the weather, but ostensibly, if you think Penn State fans are all that cranked up about this game, they could outnumber the Maryland fans. I'm not sure, but they have a knack for folding in late October and November, because when the weather gets bad, they don't like that. They don't like that either. They'd kind of rather go inside, rather play in sunny weather, warm weather on a fast track. And they really are antithetical to football. I mean, football, what I just got done writing something. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but football really is about pain. It's less so now than it used to be. But it's about inflicting pain, enduring pain, and to a lot of the guys who played it best, it's actually appreciating pain. They like it. They
Is this
do.
your Matt Millen impersonation? Is this what you're
I
doing?
thought of Matt Millen when I was writing it because
I
they,
can
they
see him saying that verbatim, by the way.
yeah, I mean, I thought of it because that's who is emblematic of that whole theme. And he when, especially when you're training, if you train right, you're enduring pain every day and you have to embrace it. And Maryland just never does that. They love to win easy. They love to win in good conditions. I mean, they should be playing in the American Athletic Conference or something where they can play in. They should replace Temple in the American. That's what I think. They can play warm weather all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Dave, so the one guy to me, you said enigmatic, the quarterback from Maryland. I
Yeah.
know we've talked about it. It's the numbers look great, right? But then you look at the yards per attempt, the yards per completion, the fact that he throws the ball 75% of the time, and against some good teams, he's made some crucial mistakes. You mentioned Ohio State 2 years ago. That was not a great Penn State team that won 31-14 there. He threw that pick six late in the game when it was still kind of a game, and that Iowa game on Friday night when I thought they might win, and I think he threw 11 interceptions in the second
I
quarter.
believe that was 51-14. Yes.
I don't understand how every once in a while he's locked in and he looks like he can throw the ball as well as anybody, and then you talk about that Ohio State play or that vanishing act against Penn State last year. I think in the rain at Beaver Stadium, where I think he had like 11 completions for 70 yards and sacked seven. He clearly doesn't like to get hit. And I think that's going to be Manny Diaz's game plan, is to say,
Yeah.
we got to rattle this guy's cage.
Run guys at him. He also doesn't like that kind of bad weather. I mean, he's like we talked about it before. He's like a house cat that's got stuck out in the rain. Uh, I feel like we're piling on this kid, so I'm going to say some positive things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why he's enigmatic. I mean, he looks like when he's on, he looks dangerous.
I've seen. I can't remember who it was last year. They were playing West Virginia or Illinois or somebody. It was at home. It might have. I don't remember who it was, but he threw this ball. He throws really good balls on the run sometimes, from strange postures, strange angles, and he can throw a seed that just goes. Boo! It looks like Joe Namath ball. I mean, it's amazing, and that's something he does as well as his big brother with the Dolphins. And when you see that, you get sucked in, you get fished into thinking this kid really has possibilities. But he does a bunch of things as a fourth-year starter. Remember, he played in the COVID game where they beat up.
He lit him up. He lit up Penn State.
Yeah, beat him up bad. So this is his fourth year starting, and he still does this crap. I mean, he is small, so he doesn't like to get hit like anyone would. But he's also kind of mentally fragile, unlike his brother. When things go badly, they tend to snowball on him. And he gets in the most trouble when you pressure him. He tends to spin to the left. I've seen this over and over. For some reason, out of trouble, he'll go this way, which then puts a right-handed quarterback at a disadvantage because he's going against his body. Mm-hmm. And then he throws these bad passes, as you have said many times. I don't know who said it first, late and long down the middle, which is just asking for it.
It was a problem.
The Brett Favre bugaboo when he did really bad things. What was that? The throw he made when he was with the Vikings when it looked like they were going to the Super Bowl, right?
I mean, let's be honest. He might have been hopped up on Vicodin. I don't know what he was doing. He did play through pain, but he did whatever he wanted.
He played through pain.
Worked out for him.
Yeah, has nothing in common with Tagovailoa that way. But he will make a bad throw. He makes some of those bad throws, a lot of them going left, and then he comes apart emotionally. And against somebody like Penn State or Ohio State or Michigan, that cannot happen. I mean, you have to hang in there and just mitigate your mistakes and put them aside. And he hasn't been able to do that. And it's his fourth year. It's his fourth year, and he's doing the same crap over and over. And it's not like they had a tough schedule after that Ohio State game, which they end up losing 37-13. After that, They come home to play Illinois, who was in awful shape at that point. They just looked totally dysfunctional. It was a gift.
Yeah.
And unlike Penn State last week when they came off their disappointment against Ohio State and almost did that against Indiana, they couldn't pull themselves together and ended up pissing the game away 27-24. So then they get a bye week. This is the real red flag. They get a bye week, and then they get Northwestern, which
Scrappy
they
Northwestern.
totally outman. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look what David Braun's doing with that team,
Yeah.
it's really amazing. That's a whole other story since Penn State played them. They just have a bunch of mutts running around, but they want to play football. They're football players.
Yeah.
And they basically won the game simply because they wanted to play, and Maryland was like, yeah. And they won 33-27 against a Maryland team they had no business being on the field with. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a really easy game for Maryland. And then they just lost interest. It wasn't really especially awful conditions. It was kind of cold, but no rain, no snow. And there's no excuse for them. And Locks was really pissed off afterward. And he was like,
that's his default, man. The minute they lose, it's like everyone's going under the bus but him.
Yeah. And he said, well, he didn't completely. He said, we were out hit. We were out tackled. Their tackling was abysmal. I don't know that I've ever seen a team with ability tackle as badly as Maryland did in that Northwestern game. Just half-assed all the way through the game. And then he said, that ultimately comes back to me, and we've got to do something. But, we've seen it over and over and over, and that's why the fans are losing interest, what fans Maryland has.
Dave, let's not forget, those Big Ten West skilled players can be elusive in space.
That's comedy, damn it.
Hey, Nebraska, don't count them out, Dave.
Buddy, I was way ahead of the curve on Nebraska because I saw that schedule. Have you looked at their future schedule?
They're going to run the table, baby.
They could win that division. They could win that stinky-ass division, and it could be Matt Rule against Jim Harbaugh in the tournament in Indianapolis. And Katie bar the door. Yeah, that's going to be – they could do it,
Careful what you wish for, Husker fans. Be careful what you wish for.
They're 5-3, 3-2 now.
Yeah.
They've got 2 winnable games. I can't remember what they are, but they're since we brought it up, I'm going to look. Hang on a second. They got
Phil Steele's magazine right now
at Minnesota. Yes.
No, they already played. They already lost to Minnesota.
No. They've got at Minnesota this week.
Who?
And then Illinois. We're talking about
Nebraska. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about Nebraska. Yeah. Illinois has a bad schedule too.
They've already found a way to lose.
Nebraska's got at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Maryland. I mean, 7-3 Maryland at home, that's 7-3, 5-2.
Don't you jinx them, Dave.
Well,
jinx them.
Then I said it like weeks ago. Their schedule might have been the easiest in the country in the second half, in the final 7 weeks for that matter. And then at Wisconsin and Iowa, you got to beat the big boys to win the West. But those are winnable games.
Dave, let's circle back to Penn State and their offense. I think I talked to you about this before. I just want to bring it up one more time. I think there's something to this. I could actually see it. You got a young quarterback who Franklin and Yurcich have coached him up into not making mistakes. I do think it has worked against him. I think he's tentative. He's got this arm that is got rare talent, and if he's not absolutely positively sure it's there, he's either going to throw it away, he's going to try and extend the play, he's going to get sacked. I would like to see at some point, and this is against what James Franklin believes in, I would like to see at some point Drew Allar take some chances with that arm, not throw late down the middle, but I mean, you saw that throw he made to Keandre, the guy was open, but it just seems to be a waste of an elite arm talent to not try and make some plays when you need to make a play.
I think the games we've kind of talked about, the Northwestern game, the Delaware game, the Massachusetts game, were the times to
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're a fighter, a test pilot, let's see what the plane can do.
Yeah.
And because he's got a sports car kind of realm of skills about him. So let's see what it can do. Then, if you want to play close to the vest against Ohio State and Michigan, fine. Or even maybe this game. But I think this game, as long as the conditions are right, is another chance. And so is
Yeah.
Rutgers. But they only got one game before Michigan, so it's really about this.
Yeah.
Cut them loose, because you got Bo Braid, the safety, who's a really good player for Maryland, but the corners are kind of in disarray. Go after them. I mean, try to throw some balls that you wouldn't normally, and see what this baby can do, because he's going to have to do it against Michigan for them
Yep.
to win. He's going to have to. He has a little confidence now, hitting that big pass to Lambert Smith.
Yeah.
And it's certainly conceivable that it could turn his season on a dime, and all of a sudden he remembers who he is. But he's had a lot against him. He's gotten receivers that can't get open. He's had the coaching retentiveness that I'm sure you're right about. So
just almost mixed messaging, you've been doing this your whole life, and now it's don't make the mistake, don't make the mistake, don't make the mistake. And then I think it's only instinctual that he is tentative. You saw it in the Ohio State game. I think he was coached that way in the Iowa game, even though they were in control. James talked about, like, let's not ruin a bad thing. We got him down
to their benefit. We should mention that, to their benefit in the Iowa game.
It
we
was,
saw that.
But
we
now
saw that and we thought,
he has got that in his head, and I think it's hard to get out of it.
That Iowa game was kind of before we knew that he would be this way. I didn't see that in him for West Virginia, for instance. I saw a kid that was
turned it loose
as advertised.
Right.
And then starting with, I guess, at Illinois and then Iowa, we started to see another kind of kid. There's a don't screw it up game manager that should be, playing at Iowa or Michigan State or someplace. And I don't think that's really who he is. It's who he's been built into. And it's time to take off the training wheels. I agree with you.
Yeah. I hope Drew can get to a point at this year, and it's where there's only a couple games left. I hope he can get to a point this year where the minute he sees it, and even if it's a little bit tight, he just trusts his arm. I mean, it's just, I think the more that he does that, and the more that he has success, the more that this offense still can take a step, even though they are limited at wideout. They do have some tight ends, and I think it'll help the running game. I know the running game has got issues of its own, but I think all of it kind of works together, and it's hard to have that kind of talent and not really get to use it or not really trust it. I think at this stage of the season, it's problematic.
You're kind of like Peter King. You want to see more gunslinger.
I would like to see any gunslinging, not more, just any gunslinging. I mean,
remember how giddy he used to get talking about Brett Favre?
Oh, yeah. Him and John Madden both. John Madden loved himself some Brett Favre.
Yeah, but King was kind of creepy. He was like, he's just a gunslinger. It was
I'm not sure what my voice was, Dave, but I'm just going to let that one go.
Was it Johnny Bench talking about Darren Dalton that he's an Adonis?
Yep. I'm not going to go down that path with you, man. But, so look, we are starting to get a little pressed for time here. We have to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Have you formulated a thought or a pick on this game?
I have not.
Great.
Well,
Super, Dave.
I haven't thought of a score, put it that way. Okay. Off the top of my head, I'll say 30-14 Penn State, simply because I don't trust Maryland to ever come up big in this game. I don't trust them to be resilient. I think they can. I think it's very possible they could win the damn game. I just don't trust them to show up. Also, I trust, and I think you'll probably agree, that defense just took the day off against Indiana, and that was an aberration, not just a one-off screw around, not something emblematic of who they are. And if this defense at all wants to really go at it, they're going to give Tagovailoa all he can handle and more, and he's going to be eating some bad stuff. So, and if you pressure him, bad things are going to happen to him.
Yeah, line was about 10 at the start of the week. It's 9.5. I don't know if Chop Robinson's going to play after that Ohio State injury. Even without him, they have some edge rushers, but Chop would really help. I do think the more that he throws the ball against Penn State's secondary, I really think he is risking a big play or two that will turn this game. I think that's what's going to happen. I do think it's time, Dave, and I talked about it with Johnny McGonigal. Kalen King needs to start making some game-changing plays in Penn State's favor. And I don't mean that sarcastically, but I think he is capable of it. And I think Johnny Dixon's played well. I think Daquan Hardy has been the most improved player on that defense in addition to being a punt returner. I think Kalen's due. I think he's going to make a play. I got it 24-13 Penn State.
Oh, you're more pessimistic about it than I am.
I am, only because the offense has got its issues, like we just talked about. Running game, I don't know it's going to get better. I don't know if Drew's going to let it rip. I don't know if they want him to let it rip. I think they're going to try and win it with their defense and special teams and hope that
and they shouldn't. They should let it rip against this team, because this team, they're ready to quit. They are ready to check out. You can just see it. You can just see it in them. I mean, if you lose to Illinois in the shape they were in, and then you get a bye, and then you go lose to Northwestern, you're ready. You're done. You're thinking about all their best athletes are thinking about the NFL draft and prep, and that's the kind of the world we live in. They're just checking out a little early, it looks like. Although our old boss Nick Horvath used to say, if whatever bullets they got left, whatever guns they got left to shoot, they're gonna shoot them here. That makes sense. So I would expect a serious challenge in the first quarter, in the second, and then Penn State's going to have to physically make them relent. And if they do, I think it's over then.
All right, Dave, I think we've covered all the bases. We talked about how much football players should love pain, like Matt Millen. It's part of the game. We've talked about Maryland. We've talked about Penn State. We've talked about the Big Ten West and my Nebraska Cornhuskers. I think we covered all the bases. What about you?
I love how you wrap these things up. It's kind of like an
industrial. Once in a while. Only once in a while.
It's kind of like a tutorial where you.
Otherwise, you're like a cat trying to chase that flashlight on the wall. I'm trying to wrap it up, and you're like, "Hey, wait another thing. Hey, one more thing."
You're so organized. It's like an industrial.
Looking out for Chris Hopkins. He's trying to get out of Dodge.
You're like an outline. This is what we're going to learn. Okay, this is what we're learning. Now, this is what we've learned. That's remember the industrial films you used to watch when you were a kid, when there was a substitute teacher?
He's still talking, guys. He's still talking. This is a constant problem on the podcast.
All right. We will see you from College Park in the dark.